as Cornel West told me, so if you criticize the Democratic Party, they're going to come at you. If you criticize the establishment from the left, they're going to come at you. And here's what Cornel West said to me just a few weeks ago.
We have to be just as vigilant in terms of accountability, answerability, responsibility when it comes to Biden and Harris, when it comes to the administration of the establishment of the Democratic Party, because we know it's tied to Wall Street. We know it's tied to militarism. We know that it doesn't want to hit mass incarceration. We know it doesn't want to hit the situation, the plight and predicament of working people, so that Wall Street is still very much in the driver's seat of the Democratic Party, just as it was very much in the driver's seat of the Republican Party. Mm-hmm. We're looking for what do ordinary people, everyday people, working people of all colors, all genders, all sexual orientation, all regions, what will we have? And that's the fundamental question, brother. And that's what you have been highlighting year after year after year. And I salute you for it, man. I really do. It just means, you're going to be misconstrued, misunderstood, attacked, character assassination, and so forth. I mean, I say join the club. They've been coming at me for decades after decades. You got a smile on your face. I got a smile on my face. Because when you're fighting for something bigger than just the next party election or the next position in the establishment, then you got a different kind of freedom, man. Different kind of freedom. America needs more free brothers and sisters of all colors. And it's often been the artists who've been the vanguard in that regard, the musicians and the comic artists. But we need free folk across the board if this democratic project is going to sustain itself, given the very ugly, not just neoliberal, but predatory capitalists and imperial foreign policy in place. I'm talking about that high, thick form of militarism that comes out of the Pentagon. And I don't care what color the head of the Pentagon is. We're talking about moral issues. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. For me, as a revolutionary Christian, we're talking about spiritual issues. Human beings being sacred, no matter what country, no matter what color, no matter what gender, sexual orientation they are.
Okay, so there he was. If you hold them accountable, because no one else is. No one at CNN, the New York Times, the Washington Post, or MSNBC is holding the Democratic Party accountable, or Joe Biden, or Nancy Pelosi, or anybody, even the Justice Democrats. The Justice Democrats, by the way, did you see them endorse Neera Tanden? That was fun, Max?
That was amazing. Amazing.
That was, they're making me look like a genius over here. I couldn't fucking believe it.
They should just change their name to the Democrats.
That's it. Just take
get the justice out of there.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't think justice means what you think it means.
Or the just us Democrats.
That's it. Just us, them. I mean,
it's all about us. It's just about the Democrats. We don't care about anybody else. We don't care about anybody in Libya. We don't care about any people kicked off welfare, which Neera Tanden helped design. We don't care about anybody in the Sanders movement that she denigrated as anti-Semitic and Russian controlled. We don't care. We just care about the Democrats. Just us Democrats.
Us Democrats. It's a failed experiment. The idea was good. I think that I understood the idea that you get a bunch of insurgent young people who are anti-establishment. They don't take corporate money, and then they can get elected as Democrats, and then they could challenge power. That was the idea. That's a failed idea. It's a failed experiment because you don't change the Democratic Party. The Democratic Party changes you, and I think we're seeing that. Would you say it's a failed experiment?
Well, I come from that milieu. I grew up in Washington. I grew up seeing.
Oh, see, that's what happened.
Change, and I came out of that.
Back up to you froze for a second. You froze when you said milieu. I have a filter on it. Anything French, it fucks in.
Yeah. I really.
You came out of that milieu.
I came out of that milieu.
You should use Lysol.
You can tell I come out of that milieu because I said milieu, but.
I use Lysol.
Everybody I grew up with who was into politics and was in Washington was like into the Democrats. And, in the 90s, people thought that Clinton was cool.
Yes.
He was playing the saxophone.
Baby. He was at Arsenio Hall, baby.
To make a long story short, and I kind of want to bridge into a story about Cornel West and what's happened to him recently. Yes. But
at Harvard?
Yeah, at Harvard. But to make a long story short, I started seeing a larger world outside of, the two-party system, and started seeing how there was a kind of bipartisan consensus that was dooming millions of people around the world to, suffering and siege, starting with my work in Palestine. Palestine really became my lens for viewing the world and seeing Israel as kind of a very severe mirror image of ourselves in the U.S. And with Obama coming into office, and I was around The Nation magazine at that time, and everyone was enthralled with Obama. Chris Hayes was writing endorsements of Obama as a Nation journalist, and all the other journalists were, if you said a bad thing about Obama, you were just like the Satan. You're a pariah. I kept my mouth shut for the most part. I didn't write anything negative about him, but just seeing Obama just in the betrayal, actually being in Hyde Park. I was in Hyde Park in Chicago for Obama's victory celebration, and seeing the hope of the people in that park, and just all these people, kids coming out of the projects to celebrate with affluent white people and Latinos and everyone across Chicago, and just knowing that Obama was going to kill that hope, and then seeing it happen through the financial crisis, through Israel's Gaza slaughters, through Libya, Syria, everything else. I had that awakening. It's part of a process for people like me. And I think a lot of younger people who are half my age don't have to go through that same process because they didn't grow up on the same illusions. And they're growing up on, they're watching Jimmy Dore. They're getting their political education from elsewhere. There wasn't the same kind of media diversity at that time either. So it maybe took me a little while longer. I got to meet people along the way when I started to speak out and do journalism about Israeli apartheid. And one of those people was Cornel West. I went to speak at Princeton. I think it was like 2013 or 2014, when some Princeton students and faculty were doing a divestment drive to pressure the school to divest from companies that had contracts in the occupied West Bank. And Cornel West took time out of his really busy schedule to open for our panel. And he spoke about Albert Einstein, who has a house at Princeton, who was very involved at Princeton as a faculty member, researcher, and how Albert Einstein was actually proposed by David Ben-Gurion, the first prime minister of Israel, to be the first president. President in Israel is sort of a ceremonial position, and they like to choose esteemed people with great reputation. And Einstein refused when he saw what Israel was, when he learned about the ethnic cleansing of Palestinians. He actually authored a letter, or signed on to a letter, I believe, warning that Israel could turn fascist, and identifying fascist elements already in its political world. And he urged pluralism and democracy instead of this fascist direction. Cornel West spoke about Einstein and said, let's be like Einstein. And he stayed for part of my talk. He said, I want to, see Brother Max speak. And I said, I really feel like a jazz reference. I feel like Bill Evans playing after a Pharoah Sanders show. But Cornel West was like, well, Bill Evans was a bad boy. He's a great pianist. And I wanted to just talk about jazz and blues with him. But he was very supportive of me. And afterwards, I got to meet his students. He taught theology and African-American studies, and his students talked about him not just like in glowing terms, but as kind of a father figure. And they weren't just enraptured with his public image or like him being in the media and dropping truth bombs, but him as an actual academic mentor. He meant everything to these students. And especially working class students who didn't necessarily fit in with the Ivy League atmosphere at Princeton. And so Cornel West, he had tenure, and then he goes to Harvard to get employment, and he has to reapply for tenure. And Cornel West is denied tenure by Harvard University, clearly on the basis of his belief that we should be like Albert Einstein when it comes to Israel-Palestine. We should see the humanity of Palestinians and the illegality and criminality of this project of apartheid. So many other people have gotten tenure at Harvard who are just absolute shills for the military industrial complex, for the pharmaceutical and legal establishment. Larry Summers was president. I mean, after he declared as World Bank president that Africa was underpolluted, after he presided over this program of destroying Russia's economy, after he got rid of Glass-Steagall and, created the context for the financial crisis, he was the leader. He was the leader of Harvard, and Cornel West is denied tenure for all of the contributions that Cornel West has given his students. This is how he's treated. I mean, this, again, it says so much about a failed and really cruel, discredited establishment that deserves to be just absolutely loathed.
Yeah, and so you make that direct connection to his support of Palestine with him not getting tenure at Harvard?
Well, he's made that connection as well.
Oh, yeah? Okay. I haven't.
And the school is, has to answer questions about that. They haven't really offered a convincing explanation. I mean, I would say another explanation is just sheer racism. He's not one of these co-opted Democratic Party figures. He's speaking the truth of Black liberation theology that was inspired by James Cone. And that is a real threat to the establishment wherever he goes. That's what he teaches. That's not, that's not what the Democratic Party wants to see.
Right.
They want to see co-opted figures that can easily fit in with the Walmart-funded Black Congressional Caucus. And, when they honored John Lewis, I thought it was so sad at the end of John Lewis's life to just see him turned into this attack dog against Bernie Sanders and do paid talks with Goldman Sachs to go to Black Lives Matter rallies and tell him to tone it down a little bit. That's the kind of leadership that the establishment wants. And Cornel West really represents this true radical tradition that goes back hundreds of years in this country.
It's his message is dangerous to them. That you're exactly right. His message is dangerous to them, and that's why he's not getting tenure. That is amazing to see that. Of course, I think that'll just raise his stature, and it's much like the warning Twitter put on your article. I think it just draws more attention to what he's doing and what he's saying. Don't you think?
And that's our role. I mean, even if we're censored or we're banned, whatever, we'll find a voice. We can even organize off the internet. We can still find community, but our role is to expose these contradictions and injustices, and to inspire other people to action. And that's what Cornel West has dedicated his career to. So he's threatening to leave Harvard. He's not going to just be denigrated by an institution where he deserves to be uplifted and honored. Cornel West, I mean, he's openly saying Palestine is a taboo issue among certain circles and high places in response to being denied tenure. So he's openly saying it. Why can't we talk about it? Why can't you make a joke on Saturday Night Live about the reality that Israel's denying or just refuses to give COVID vaccinations to the millions of Palestinians whose lives it controls under occupation? Why does that cause this international controversy? If you just can't speak certain truths.
So if you occupy a territory, it's incumbent upon you to take. It's just like if you have somebody arrested, their safety is now your responsibility. Their well-being is your responsibility. You can't imprison someone and then not give them medical care, and that's exactly what's happening.
Yeah. And like the Gaza Strip, they say, oh, it's controlled by Hamas.
It's an open air. Go ahead.
I've been to the Gaza Strip twice or three times. I've gone in and out three times. It literally is an open air prison. You have to walk through metal gates that open, and then you walk through a giant wall and then through a buffer zone. And as soon as you get into that buffer zone, which is off limits to the residents of Gaza, and you see like the refugee camps off in the distance. You look to your right, and there's a literal remote-controlled machine gun to your right that's controlled by a unit in the Negev desert in Israel, which is used to target anyone who approaches the wall and is seen as a threat, and they can be shot by remote. I mean, that's the level of dystopian control that people in the Gaza Strip enjoy. When I went in during the 2014 assault on Gaza, there was a drone overhead at all times. I mean, of course, there were constant bombings, but it was just the level of control is shocking. The Israeli Navy is patrolling the waters. So when I went on a fishing boat with Gaza fishermen, we were intercepted by an Israeli naval vessel, and they told us, you have to turn back or we will shoot you. And that means you can't go to the waters in the Mediterranean, the deeper waters where the better catch is. And so these fishermen are being starved. I mean, Haaretz, which is an Israeli newspaper, has reported that Israel has used complex mathematical formulas to calculate the amount of calories that each resident of the Gaza Strip should be entitled to, because they control all of the food and goods, even cars, even like luxury goods that go in and out. And as Dov Weissglass, who was an advisor to the Ehud Olmert administration that implemented the siege of Gaza, once the siege began officially, he said, what we want for people in Gaza is not that they starve, but we want to put them on a diet. So they're controlling even the caloric intake at a certain level. And this Saturday Night Live joke just kind of scratched the surface of it all. It just shows you how powerful the truth is when a joke can cause an international incident.
What was the joke?
The joke was like Israel's said it's vaccinated half of its citizens, or half of the Israeli population. Let me guess who the other half is. They're the ones who aren't Jewish. Like, it's obviously not exactly factual. It's not explained, but it's basically what's going on. And
they got in trouble for that?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if the Israeli government, but Israeli government spokespeople called it anti-Semitic. It's all over the internet. Look up Michael Che and Israel, and you'll find like hundreds of articles about it. It's just shocking. I mean, if it was a joke about Russia, it would have just meant that,
another joke.
It was Tuesday,
yeah,
Saturday.
Just another joke. But I've been off the social media for a couple weeks, so I've been missing a lot of stuff, and I guess that's one of the things I missed.
Well, there'll be another one next week.
I'm staying off social media, man. It's a really nice vacation.
It is good for your mind, and I've seen some. I actually, was in a place a few weeks ago where there was no electricity, and there was no Wi-Fi, and it was really good for my mind. And I think social media makes people less happy. It's just pretty obvious. But at the same time, it has given. I got into journalism in the early 2000s, right at the advent of online journalism, and it's given me a way to go around the gatekeepers for the most part, and to still find an audience that's hungry for, adversarial journalism. So obviously I couldn't live without this, but it's a double-edged sword.
Yeah, it's a double-edged sword. Yeah, I mean, I love Twitter. I love YouTube. I hate Facebook. I will never, ever go on Facebook. I go on like once a month because I have to like post something, or I click a link that brings me there. And I notice people send me messages, like people I know send me messages on Facebook as if I'm fucking going to see them. I'm never going to see them.
Yeah.
People why would you send me real information on Facebook? That just sounds so, anyway.
Because they're boomers? I don't know.
I guess. I don't know. Yeah. Max Blumenthal from the Gray Zone, doing great work, exposing the media government collusion to do propaganda, pro-war propaganda. It's a great article, great work. It got flagged by Twitter, which is a big help. That was a big help. It really got a lot of eyeballs on your story, so that was good.
Thanks, Jack.
Yeah, thanks, Jack. Hey, everybody, this is the part where I tell you where all our live shows are, but there aren't any. And then this is why I tell you to join our premium program and get extra content, but nobody's got a fucking job. So just enjoy the video.